Okay, I've hit record. We're recording. Just have a silent.
I was going to say, do we need a minute
intro.
after recording all those intros?
Maybe.
I feel
which
like
which I now
done
can't.
a different pose.
So the thing is, I now can't include that because this episode is going to be released before all the intros that we've just recorded for the episodes that. Oh, actually, I can record. I can include it because we do need to, in this episode, make people aware that next week there will be 5 special episodes of the podcast coming out.
There you go. It was all intentional.
It's all intentional.
I didn't break the continuity.
No, not
for no
at
reason.
I'll give some clarity to that for our listeners. We went to, as you'll be aware, we went to Cake or Death and we recorded so much content that next week, which will be the week commencing the week commencing the 2nd of June, we'll be releasing 5 daily episodes of the podcast to cover all of the content that we recorded. So that's a special treat. Scott, you excited?
I'm so excited. I'm containing myself for fear of any seepage.
Oh,
play the intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast, brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Life. My name is Chris. Joining me this week, Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, what's your favourite fish?
Hello, Chris. Favourite fish? Oh, it's got to be something quite big and chunky, hasn't it, really? So I'd probably go with something actually like a thresher shark. Not like a great white or a tiger. Everyone goes to that, but I think a thresh is quite nice, elegant, different. So yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Joining us also, Mr. Tom Feeks. Tom, what is your favourite fish?
I go swordfish, partly because it's got the word sword in it, and the 12-year-old in me still thinks that's really cool, and they taste really good.
They do taste good. That's true. Mr. Tom Hovell not with us this week. He is sunning it up in Lisbon. However, he did tell me his favourite fish was a hammerhead shark.
We've all gone for game fish. Well, have we? We're 3 for 3 for game fish. Christopher, what's your?
No, you've all gone for the game fish. I'm going for an anchovy. Do like me an anchovy, or like a handful. You know, they're like fish crisps, salty fish crisps.
Fish crisps.
But we're not here to talk about fish crisps. No, we're not. As I said in the intro. Next week, we are releasing 5 episodes, one every day, Monday to Friday, to document our trip down to Yeovil for Cake or Death 2. So you'll be able to see how we all got on at that particular tournament. So this week, we thought we'd keep it simple. And I posed the simple question to Mr. Bryant and to Mr. Feeks, which is, what does your perfect Blood Bowl game look like? What to you would you, if you were to leave the table after a game of Blood Bowl, what would you be saying was the perfect game? Now, who wants to go first? Scott, Tom, any volunteers?
Oh, well volunteered, Tom.
Cool. Off you go,
Great.
What does your perfect Blood Bowl game look like?
So, I'm going to use my most recent match as an example. Because there's a few that was going through my head of being like, oh, you know what, that was a really great game. That was a really great game. And ultimately, for me, it comes down to your opponent. So my last match was against Greenskin Phil, who I know does listen. So hi, Phil. I still haven't quite forgiven you for killing my ghoul, but you know, I'll still say you're a good opponent because it was a genuinely good match. It was my Necro against his goblins. I ended up losing 2-1, but it was a real dramatic, tense match. Started off his chainsaw just running riot, absolutely running riot. I had to score fairly quick, well, quicker than I'd have liked to, potentially. But there was kind of no way around it because he was just eating through my team. And it was those matches where you feel yourself slumping, another cash. All right. Okay. Yeah, I've got 3 players. That's cool. And then, what do you think he did when I scored and his chainsaw got sent off?
Rolled a 6.
Rolled a 6.
Hey.
He rolled a 6. But I think this is where it came into it, because my initial, the appropriate response, of course, was I just told him to fuck off at that point. I immediately apologized because I realized I was shouting at the dice, telling him to fuck off. But his response was, in a very gentlemanly way, no, that was the appropriate response for what just happened. That was the correct response. First half just went terribly for me. Second half was so incredibly close. There was all it took was one turn where I think I stunned 4 of his goblins in one turn, and it just completely flipped on its head. My wolf snatched the ball, ran down, tried to get in, and then failed a 1 in 9 dodge to get out and score, leaving him with sort of 3 or 4 rushes with multiple players every turn to then get the 2 and win, and he still manages to do it. But genuinely, the whole thing was just so much fun because it was so swingy. Like he lived my pain, and then I lived his when I just kept rolling pals. I was like, oh god, that's turned. But the whole way through, I was like, either one of us can win this.
So can I just confirm, for my understanding here, that your perfect Blood Bowl game is a 2-1 loss?
Yeah, because it was brilliant fun. I don't. There are matches about 2 rounds
Tom here
before.
taking the goddamn moral high ground.
I'm sorry.
We all had a good time.
I'm fine. All right. I'll go back to my 5-0 win against Snotlings then. Fine. But in all seriousness, there was a match. There's another match I've had. This was a couple of years ago where my dice were so on fire that it wasn't fair. And yeah, I won, I think 4-0 at that point. But I was just like, well, there was no fun in that because my opponent was just bored the entire time and had just given up and checked out by about turn 4. And I was like, well, you know what? We've both come this way. I would have loved to have won that match and come out and said, I beat a Team England player. But the fact is, we both came out to just like, that was an incredibly close, tense match. And so for me, perfect Blood Bowl game is one where your opponent, where both of you can love each other's successes and feel each other's failures.
Tell you what, you want that on a t-shirt, don't you? You want to live each other's successes. Good God.
live. No, I can't.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that in cursive writing on the wall of a Airbnb somewhere, like
Probably.
next to "Live, Laugh, Love." It's gonna be. I think you could sell that to a particular type of person in a just a printout in a picture frame on Etsy.
Yeah, but no, I know it's a weird one to say that my best Blood Bowl match was a loss, but it's the sort of match that had the dice done slightly differently. If I'd taken out a couple of his goblins instead of stunning them, I could have still swamped him and gone through, I think. But it was the game that was that close that it was effectively down to a 1 in 9 that decided the whole match.
It's a very yes, it's a very pragmatic and courteous view of what the perfect game of Blood Bowl is. It's just both coaches having a nice time,
yes,
and enjoying. I've used my soft voice, enjoying a lovely, nice game of Blood Bowl together.
You do sound as if
multiple times. You realise.
With that sort of voice, Chris, I can appreciate why people would want to see you arrested. But anyway,
well, Scott, what's your perfect Blood Bowl game then? Tell me how your perfect game goes.
I was debating this. I have been thinking about this because, for me, is a perfect game. You know, what we call in the league the 5-pointer. So you get the win, you get the amount of actually it'd be a 6-pointer, wouldn't it? Because it would be the win, it would be achieving the number of touchdowns, achieving the number of casualties, and keeping your opponent to 0. However, when you've done that, and this is why I do agree with Feexy, in that sort of environment, you know, it becomes very sterile almost. And I think it's that lack of interaction, which I don't really want that as a perfect game. I also, to be cliche, I don't think I'd ever. I think Blood Bowl, to get a perfect game, as in, to have no casualties, you pitch clear your opponent, you play it exactly as the uber wonderful game of results driven would be for you. I don't think that's what Blood Bowl is all about for me. Um, do I want a thematic storyline in terms of the little snotling comes good at the end? Things like that just make me laugh. The thematics, the insanity, the one player, the journeyman, he will do something ridiculous like a 6-up pickup, 6-up dodge out, all the rushes, and with no logic behind it in terms of probability. Statistics go out the window and stuff happens, and you do have this like emotional resonance, this roller coaster as you go through the game. And I think for me, it's that sort of game whereby you can start very strongly, or your opponent can start strongly, and then they might fade, you might get better, and that can go on through several cycles and iterations throughout the match. So that's the sort of way I look at it. And if I had to pick off a couple of games, um, last season's again a losing match, but you were there, Chris, for the my quarter final against Luke.
It was that
Hello,
was one
Luke,
of the most
if
incredible
you're
games of
listening.
Blood Bowl I have ever seen.
If you look at that, I was 2-1 up. I was down to, I think, 5 elves left on the pitch. I didn't see a little one of his goblins standing behind his ogre model, and I thought, no, I just won't pick up the ball. I'll just leave it there. He can't get down the pitch, and there's no way he'll pick it up. And of course, he threw the goblin. Goblin landed in, pick up, out, score, rush, rush,
And
score.
a
So
goblin with the relative mutations, so it was dodging
two.
everywhere on a 2, and I think it's picking up in tackle zones on a 2 as well, possibly.
Ooh.
Like it had
Evil, yeah.
it had everything it needed to just roll nothing but ones to pick up the ball and score.
Yeah. So it was a great game, and then to do the one turn touchdown to get it back, and then we went to extra time, lost the ball, got the ball, lost the ball. It was just one of those emotional ringers, and to see everyone else watching it going through that same emotion in your face when I had to roll those, because I had a catcher with sprint, and to roll those 3 rushes. And it's you become almost terrified of rolling a dice. It's that crazy. And and that sort of emotional resonance, that excitement, that's what I play the game, and to have enjoy that with other people as well. There's been some other good games in spoiler alert for Cake or Death listeners, if you want to turn off your sort of podcast now. The one turn touchdown I scored, that was a lovely thing. Yeah, I did, Feeksy. One turn touchdown, no re-rolls.
Oh,
None
no
at all.
He was
rerolls is
very proud.
None
impressive.
He
at
was
all.
very
That is
proud.
None at all,
We
mate.
were all very proud.
yes.
None
Well
at
done.
all. I tell you what, it was absolute thing of beauty. So that was good. I've played other games. Always playing John Reader is a great entertaining experience. And most of the coaches we play, we're fortunate to be in an environment where we don't have any of those guys or someone like that guy. And yeah, there are times when you think you've had the most unperfect game, the most flawed game, when, as Feeksy said, by the end of turn 3, turn 4, you think, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. But then there is always hope, and we all know anything can happen in Blood Bowl. And it's that little chink, that ray of hope that keeps getting you every bloody time. And then you find out you're down to, say, 6 players on the pitch. And you think, I can still do this. I can still do this, even, and then you're down to 5 players on your pitch and say, I can still do this. It's going to be a little bit tricky. And then you're down to 3 and you say, well, I can get a line of scrummage. Okay, right. if there's a timeout, get an extra turn. You never know. This is Blood Bowl. They scored again. Anyway, despite all of that, my perfect game would just be an entertaining, emotional roller coaster. If it's 1-0 win, 2-1 win, 3-1 win. Don't get me wrong, my preference is to win or not, or win rather than lose. But yeah, it's just about enjoying that occasion. That's
Yeah.
it for me.
No,
Yeah.
Sorry, I was interrupting you just to say I
No,
agree. So
thank you, DC. And I think that goes for where it's even playing Blood Bowl 3, which I have lately. I beat someone who was under the label Stewbacker. Now, we know a Stewbacker, so I
I
don't know if
think
it was Stewbacker.
it's likely to be him.
And I beat him on a head-to-head with Wood Elves 3-1. That was a proud day. I think I got a screenshot somewhere. So yeah.
Very nice. A very nice. Yeah, kind of. I guess the game being dramatic and continuing to kind of keep both coaches invested and all sorts of things happening to both coaches as well. Like
Yes.
that sounds pretty good.
You're going to
Um,
absolutely do something completely left field now, aren't you,
no,
Chris?
no, I don't think it is. I think
pitch cleared him and won 12-0. And
I think actually it's like exactly what you would expect from what my perfect game is. So let me give you the background before the perfect. This background before the perfect game is even played, before the players even turn up at the pitch. Okay, you're 7 games. Well, no, you're 6 games into your Blood Bowl group stage. There's 2 games left. You go into game 7, and you go into game 6. Even you go into game 6 of the season, and your star skink, 7 touchdowns, sprint, sure feet, sidestep, gets all of your goals. Miss next game. He's missing game 7. Game 7, you then get absolutely floored. You get tabled, but luckily no players are going to miss game 8. And you get to game 8 and you look at the table and you're sat outside of any playoff position. You cannot get automatic playoff qualification, but there is hope. Other games have been played around you. And if you can get the win, if you can get the 3 points, you will take the wild card spot to send you into the playoffs. Your star skink's coming back. He missed game 7, but he's on game 8. So you go into game 8, you set up, you lose the kick, unfortunately, but it's okay. We don't need to worry. We don't need to win the kick. During the first turn, your opposition manages to get through to that star skink, double pow, knocked out, off. You're thinking, this isn't good. By turn 2, you're 1-0 down off the bat. You then receive the ball for turn 3. It's a blitz. They swarm the ball. The ball's landed perfectly for your opponent, picks up the ball. Your skink didn't come back, so you're still down on players. The Crocsagor's boneheading all of the first half, and your opponent has got the ball on the kick and is grinded down till turn 8 and scored on turn 8. And at halftime, you are 2-0 down and you need to win the game. You then go halftime, you go into the changing room. You give the motivational speech of all motivational speeches. Like, you are quoting every major family sports film. That it's like the motivational speech from Mighty Ducks 1, 2, and 3 combined into one glorious display of motivation. Everyone is absolutely pumped, and you go out. The skink rolls a 6 in order to come back, and is back on the field. And straight away off the back, what happens? You get a timeout. You lose a turn, but it's okay. So you're then on turn of 10. You've only got 7 turns to try and win this game, but straight away you get a good start. You get a skink down with some protection, and on the first block your opponent makes, double skull. You're in. It's now 2-1. Second touchdown. You're grinding your way to the end. It takes a while, and unfortunately you score, and there's only going to be 1 turn left, so it's 2-2. But you've now got to get a 1-turn touchdown against the drive. Kickoff event, timeout. You get a timeout. You get that turn back that you lost earlier on in the game. You get the skink down as far as you can, but your opponent is defending well, defending gloriously, but you've managed to keep players on the pitch. You are 2 rushes away from the end zone. You're 2 rushes. You're so nearly there. You're 2 rushes away. You get to your turn 8. You do the blocks you need to. They're pushes instead of pows, but it's okay. You've managed to make the gap. You need to do 1 dodge and 2 rushes, and you are through for the 3-2 win. You do the dodge. You fail. Dodge reroll. Works. You run down. You do the first rush. You succeed. You do the rush into the end zone. You fail. But you've got that reroll that you saved from earlier in the half. You knew you'd need it. You took the both down, and you risked it, but it was okay. And you use the reroll, and you roll a 2, and the crowd goes wild, and you get the 3-2 win to get you into the wild card spot and qualify for playoffs. Perfect game.
I genuinely felt tense at the end.
That is the perfect game of Blood Bowl. Any
So-
questions?
Have you two either had what you believe a game going in such a good direction for it to be cruelly snatched away from you in the last few turns that have turned a possible perfect game into a very bitter game?
A game that's been snatched away.
I can think of ones that have gone from wins to frustrating draws, where so tournament I went to a few months ago. I was Underworld versus Orcs, and he pulled off a brilliant one turn right at the end of the first half to draw it in. He then ground it in. I'd nicked the ball off him and scored. He pulled it back to 2-2, and I just had to pull off a one turn, and then my gutter runner failed its dodges. So I've had lots of things like that. I don't know if I've ever had such a dramatic turnaround to then lose.
I've had games that I've drawn that I should have won, but I wouldn't say they were snatched from me. I would say I messed up and it should have won it. Again, I don't know if I have had. I must have done. I've had games that I feel like I have snatched. Like so what I would say is the perfect. Like I think I had a Skaven versus Necromantic Horror game that I went 2-0 down, and then in the second half, every single turn. So I legged a gutter runner down to score nice and quickly, and then every single time when I was then kicking, my first turn was run 4 gutter runners towards the person who was trying to get the ball. So I would just sprint them down the field and put so much pressure on that they would have to either do a dodge or do something or do a blitz, and then would manage to free up the ball and go down and score. And I think I won 4-2 in the end. So that was pretty good the other way around. Have you, Scott? Have you had a game that you feel? I mean, I was there. I feel like I feel like the game against Luke was snatched in a way. Like Luke did very, very well. No, take nothing away from him. But yeah, that game felt like just flipped suddenly.
I think the reason for me, if there was any frustration and bitterness, it was at myself really, because one of the things I think which makes or heads towards a perfect game is, for me, being disciplined, making sure you've activated all your players, making sure you've done things in the right sequence, counting your players up to make sure you haven't missed anything, playing your re-rolls at the right time, not just throwing them away, learning. I think that's part of the learning curve with a Blood Bowl coach. Sometimes failing a dodge out, just let it go, because rather than trying to force it and just, cover everything, because that's never going to happen. So yeah, I think in that match, yes, mate, on another day, yeah, I'd have gone in and picked the, no re-rolls, but picking up the ball on a 2. Because worst case, if I hadn't picked it up, it would have been a turnover and the ball was still next to my players. So there were still tackle zones. But they are the sort of things that you learn from. And I think as a Blood Bowl coach, to have an imperfect game like that, you flip it to say, what can you take away from that? What can you learn to make yourself a better coach? God, it almost sounds as if I've been reading Feeksy's positivity statements off Etsy. But for me, there have been games when I have absolutely robbed people blind. If Simon's listening, hi Simon. In the first turn, so first game last season 8 in the ADBBL, I was playing Wood Elves against his Chaos Chosen. He took out my War Dancer on the first turn. And this was a War Dancer with because he had a Blitz event. And this was a War Dancer with Mighty Blow, with Tackle, lots of, he was beautifully insane, Feeksy. He was beauty. I loved him a lot. And it got to, ended up being a 1-0 win because I just happened to do chain pushes, got the ball. So, with a catcher, dodge it. Went into the one dice block, got the block, ball landed, bounced off everybody, landed next to me. So as I dodged out, pick up, and then ran and went and scored. And that was a 1-0 win, which I robbed in, I think, turn 15, and then scored turn 16. And that was a hard one for Simon, you could tell, because new team, only one reroll. And he was getting pink elves off the pitch with, KOs. And it was one of those when we've all played the matches, and I think this happens to all Blood Bowl coaches, when the momentum feels against you and suddenly you start to have one knockout and then two, and then you get a cash and then three and then four. And after a while, you just think, oh, when is this going to end?
I always think that, like, so if I'm ever playing D&D, I always know I've had a good D&D session or something good has happened if I can picture the TV show episode where that is going on. If I can kind of like clearly picture that all happening in a like if I can picture watching that and finding it really entertaining, then I feel like something really cool has happened and really fun has happened. And I think with Blood Bowl games, if I can look at how a game has gone and it's been so entertaining that I can see it being the heartwarming underdog film that I crave for my team, then I know I've had an incredible game. So I think that's kind of it's always my measure of it is, can I picture, can I sell this game to Netflix? Can I get Tom to have a word? And can I sell this game to Netflix? Then I'm like, I've had a pretty perfect game.
Yeah, so I think it sounds like we're all on pretty similar lines with it's the narrative behind it all and the drama. We all love those games where your dice are so hot that you can do no wrong. But the even games are actually better, I think. And I do find it interesting that, Scott, our perfect games were losses and then Chris's was a win. So what does that say about our play?
I think it might say more about me than about you guys,
No,
actually.
I feel like we've probably just got more losses to draw the experience from than you do.
Well, if you're listening and you want to tell us about your perfect game, if you want to tell us about something else, if there's any reason that you want to get in touch, Mr. Scott Bryant, how do people get in touch to tell us their perfect game stories?
Mr. Christopher Coe, if people want to share their perfect game stories, their imperfect game stories, or even their confessions, they can drop us a note. We are fully contactable and versed in all things electronic correspondence at New Dice Please. That's all one word, all upper, lower, or mixed case, but newdiceplease at gmail.com. And at this point, I'd hand over to Mr. Hovell, but I can't. So therefore, I'm going to throw this one right at Mr. Feeks. Mr. Feeks, if people want to listen to us, see us, more Blood Bowl action and content than they could ever want to listen about adventures on the high seas, how can they listen to more Blood Bowl content from us?
Adventures on the high seas, I'm quite looking forward to finding out. Yeah, so we stream on Twitch under Blood Bowl Live, and those also pop up on YouTube as well. If you have any questions or comments, we are on Blue Sky and Instagram under New Dice Please. And like Scott said, please get your confessions coming in so we can build that episode.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. Thank you very much, Mr. Feeks. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have been New Dice Please, and we will see you next time.